I would love for every toddler to grow up thinking that tidying up is a fun thing to do. Imagine if we had a generation of adults who just thought it was normal to tidy up. It was something we did, but it wasn't a big hassle because it's fun. How cool would that be?
Welcome to Transforming the Toddler Years, a Core 4 parenting podcast blending soul and science-based strategies to empower pandemic moms like you, raising kindergarten-ready kids. I'm Cara Tyrrell, your host, a lifetime lover of littles, girl mom, early childhood educator, and conscious parenting coach who truly believes that how we connect and collaborate with our kids in the first 5 years is how we raise world-ready kids who will change this world. My guest today is Caroline Thor. She is originally from the UK, but has been living in Germany for 18 years with her husband and 3 kiddos. She's a trained KonMari Consultant, and previously to that was a teacher for tinies. So she's a perfect match for our podcast. She's here to talk to us today about living clutter-free and how to encourage and empower our tiny people to be part of the cleaning and decluttering process from their earliest years. She's passionate, as you will hear, about helping busy moms like you create a home environment that supports your ideal lifestyle, and it's infused with peace and calm and connection with your kids. We have been trying to make this happen for a good long while because I cannot wait to hear all about your topic. This idea that kids can become integral in their own clean spaces, tidying up from toddlerhood. So excited to hear about this. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and what you do.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here today. Yeah, I'm Caroline Thor. I'm originally from the UK, as you can probably hear, but I've been living in Germany for the last 18 and a half years. And it's there I've had my own 3 kids. And I am currently a KonMari consultant and professional organizer. But in a former life, I was a teacher. And when I got to Germany, I was running classes for expat toddlers in English and music. So that's sort of a little potted history.
Oh, does that sound fun? Oh my goodness, with the tinies, and they're so good. So talk to us about what KonMari is. I'll admit, for me, it was a new term. I had to look it up and get myself a little schooled in it to do this interview with you. So tell our listeners, if they're not familiar, what is KonMari?
So KonMari is a method for decluttering, tidying, and organizing that was developed by Marie Kondo. I think more people would know her name than the term KonMari. So it's the method that she developed, and it's very, very different to how we would normally go about tidying our home. So very often we might say, oh, the living room's in a mess, I'm going to tidy the living room, and you would work on one room at a time. But if you apply the KonMari method, you're actually decluttering and organizing by category. So you go through categories of items. You start with clothes, and then you move on to books, and then papers. And then there's a funny miscellaneous type category called kimono. And that basically means anything that doesn't fall into the other categories. So anything you would find in your kitchen or your bathroom or your basement, kids' toys fall into this category. And then finally, you would look at sentimental items. And the reason for that is it's so hard to make a decision about whether you should be keeping a sentimental item or not. And if you leave them till the end, then you've practiced, so to speak, as you go through. But the thing that I love the most about the KonMari method is that it all starts from the basis of you are visualizing your ideal lifestyle. How do you want to live? So that you are creating a home that supports your ideal lifestyle. I think so many of us have a home that has become a bit of a storage unit because we've got so much stuff in it and there's just things everywhere and we can't find anything anymore. But it's how do we actually really want to live? What do we want to have time to do? And my journey to KonMari started when my children were very, very small. They were all under the age of 5. And I was feeling so overwhelmed and stressed. And I hadn't really associated it with my home, but it was one day that I was reading a magazine that my sister had sent me from the UK, and someone had done a review of the new book that she'd brought out, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And I was reading this review and thought, oh my goodness, this sounds amazing. Ordered it, and it literally was the life-changing magic of tidying up. It was crazy. And it took me a year to go through our home category by category. But as I did it, I could just feel myself getting calmer and calmer. And when my then 4-year-old said to me one day, I remember it vividly, I was standing in the hallway and we were waiting to go out and I got them all ready. And she said, "Why are you a nicer mummy now?"
Whoa.
And I was like, whoa, was I that stressed? And she'd picked up on the fact that something had changed, that I was calmer, that I had time, that I was sitting on the floor playing with them and not looking around the room the whole time thinking I should be doing something else. I haven't got time for this. I didn't feel pulled and torn anymore. And that's basically why I decided to train as a KonMari consultant, because I want to help other mums feel like I do now, or how I did when my kids were very little. I want them to know that the overwhelm and the stress doesn't have to be a part of your life, that you can enjoy your kids while they're little and not be permanently worrying about all the other stuff that's going on around.
Wow. Oh my gosh. There's so much in there, Caroline. Oh, what she said to you. I have to tell you, this is resonating so deeply with me right now because, we have older kids, you and I now, and I was that mom, right? I was that mom. I was clear. We needed clear spaces, but, they would get completely messed up every day. They would get mostly cleaned up every day. And it was important to me. And so I kind of did a lot of it myself. Now I realize, and I had this kind of running belief system that I didn't even know in my brain. I can't have nice things until my kids are older. I won't have fully clean and clear and organized spaces until my kids are older. And it sounds like you're saying that doesn't have to be true.
No. I used tidying every day as a way of connecting with my children. And my brother she's now an 8-year-old stepdaughter, but he's been living with her since she was 2. And I've been working with him as well over the years. And his tidying has now become a connection point with his stepdaughter. And it's a case of making the children feel empowered, that they can help, that they can do these things, but you need to make it fun. I would love for every toddler to grow up thinking that tidying up is a fun thing to do. Imagine if we had a generation of adults who just thought it was normal to tidy up. It was something we did, but it wasn't a big hassle because it's fun. How cool would that be? So I always, with my children, and I'd actually started this before I found the KonMari method. I think it was my music teacher training in me. But I had every evening, I would be getting dinner ready. They had a little bit of TV time while I was cooking dinner. And then it would just about be ready. And I would shout, "Tidy up time." And I would put on a song, like a song from the charts that we were listening to on the radio all the time, that I knew got them all jigging around and was fun. And they would literally be running around like 3 little ants, picking stuff up and putting it in a bin and then running back. And then I would shout, "Everybody dance." And we would all stop what we were doing and have a quick dance. And I'd go, "Tidy up again." And then we'd be back to tidying up. And by the end of the song, the room was cleared. And no, it wasn't perfect. And no, they didn't put all the stuff in the right bins. But I didn't care. I just wanted them to have fun. And I wanted that once bedtime was over, that I could sit in my living room and enjoy the space with my husband of an evening without being surrounded by a toy store. So that's basically how it started. And then it sort of grew from there with me developing ways to help them keep their room tidy, getting them involved with the laundry, getting them involved with clearing the table, but all in a really sort of fun, non-competitive way. It really bothers me when people say, can you do this faster than your brother, or who can do this the quickest? We're not turning it into a competition. We're a family, we're a team. We're all responsible for making this home a space that we're proud of and that we enjoy living in.
And this is why I wanted you on the show, this collaborative spirit, right? That everyone who lives in this house is a participant of and gets to experience the results. I'll get you back to this episode in just a moment. But first, a quick question. Does your toddler struggle with transitions? Instantly erupt into tears when you ask them to clean up, come eat dinner, or worse yet, put on their pajamas? Let's be real. You have a superhuman daily to-do list, starting with getting out the door on time. But all you say is, it's time to, and they're tantruming. Why? Transitions are hard for toddlers. Transition is change, and no one really likes change, especially toddlers. Transitions are hard because they require executive functioning skills your little one hasn't learned yet. They are ready to learn impulse control and delayed gratification, and you can teach your toddler to successfully transition without tears. How? Just go to caratyrrell.com/transitions or use the link in the show notes to grab my 4-step tantrum-free transitions guide and get ready for some connected, calm, cooperative, tear-free transitions. I want to go back a second to something you said about the feeling, because that's really what this is all about, isn't it? I know when I walk into my rooms now that are clean and clutter-free and do have some more adult style furniture and rugs and things, I feel grounded. I feel like, this is a space where I can settle in and be just for a little while. That feeling, do you talk to your kids about that when you coach others and they have littles? Do you bring that in so there's a level of self-awareness that it's the feeling we're seeking, not just the visual change?
Yeah, absolutely. I always work with children on how they want to feel in their bedroom and what do they want to be able to do in there. And actually, it's very, very strange that we're talking today because I went to a client this morning to do her bathroom with her, but I last worked with her daughter she's actually 8. And she said, you have to come and look at her room. And all the things that she'd visualized and imagined as I was there, they've now created. And she's got these stations set up in her room and it was beautifully tidied up. And she's apparently very proud of it and maintaining it because she likes how she feels in that space. And I very often say to parents when they open the door to their kids' rooms and go, just look at it. Isn't it awful? And I'm like, well, if you're overwhelmed, how do you think your child feels when you say, could you tidy up? They don't know where to start. They're just as overwhelmed as you are, if not more so, because they don't have the tidying skills that you have got. And I always say to parents, you want your child to feel at home in their bedroom. And some kids are naturally more untidy than others. I have 2 children with ADHD. And for them, a little bit of chaos actually makes them feel a little bit more at home in their space. But another child that I have with autism, he very much needs for everything to be in its right place and for him to know where everything is. I do not believe there is a one size fits all. You have to approach every child individually and work out what makes them feel good in their space. And the only way you can find that out is by sitting with them, talking to them. If they're slightly older, you can get them to draw their space. But for littlies, you can say things like, which is your favorite soft toy? What do you love about it? Is it the color? Is it the feel? Try and get them to start using this vocabulary from a really young age. What is it about this book that you love? When mummy reads this book to you, how does it make you feel? So that we're really starting to train them in using their emotions and to use these emotive words so that as they start to get a bit older, they can really tell you what they need in their room and how they want their space to be and how they want to feel.
All of it, that mind, body, spirit connection, just so cool. So this year, my husband set off on a mission to give away 100 things. That was very cool, right? Ooh. And, this regulation that you're talking about, which is your favorite, which do you like best, when we have too much of things and we need to pare down. As adults, it might be hard for us, but we're able to use our critical thinking skills to weigh something against the other and make a decision. So when you talk about working with kids, are you encouraging families to do the less is more when it comes to kids' toys and kids' stuff and pare it down? Or are you just encouraging them to tidy it up and to put it in categories and make it so the space feels good?
I definitely think for younger children, especially the sort of ages we're talking about that you work with, less is more. And if you think about a very tiny child and they're perhaps sat on their playmat, they're perhaps 1 year old and they're sat on their playmat and they're surrounded by perhaps 6, 7 different toy items, they're really not sure what to do. They'll pick one thing up and then put it down, and then they get distracted and they pick the next thing up. Whereas if you just give them one thing, they will sit and occupy themselves with that for a very long time. And then when you notice that they're getting slightly distracted or perhaps not interested anymore, then you can swap it out for a different toy item, perhaps a book this time. And then they will be totally focused on that. And for littlies, it's really important that they don't have too many options available at one time. And that's where toy rotation is amazing, because you can still have all the toys, but they just haven't got access to them all. So you can have them stored high up in bins, or if you've got a basement, you could perhaps choose to have something stored in the basement. And then if you, every few weeks, swap something over, it's like Christmas. They're like, oh, because they've not seen it for ages, and they intensely play with it for hours on end. Even when my kids got older, I had a big bin full of Duplo for if little kids came to play, and I would bring it up to the living room, and my kids were on it, even though they were sort of heading towards their teenage years. They're like, oh, we've not seen this. We could build a tower. We can build a farm. We can, and this is just amazing for children's imagination to suddenly be presented with something that they haven't seen for a very long time. And it also, from a parent's point of view, makes tidying up each day easier, because there's not so much that possibly could have been got out. And it's less overwhelming for the child, especially with littlies. You can say, look, there's the bin for the cars. Let's put all the cars in. Or here's your row for your books. Let's pick up books and put those back on the shelf. It becomes more manageable, and you're able to then train them how to tidy up those small manageable amounts, so that as they get older, they've learned that skill.
First of all, can I just say how I love how you say littlies? That's going to be my new favorite word for a while. I love this, Caroline. Yes, absolutely. Empty space is the gateway to creativity. Boredom, if you can tell they're getting edgy with just those few things that have been there for a few weeks, give it another second. see what their brain can come up with to use them in different ways, to pretend that they're now different things. It's so fascinating how our kids' brains are ready for that. But we get a little micromanagey because we just want them to be so happy. And I get it. So to that end, you are very familiar with kids who have alternative ways of interacting with space, people, and things. What do you have to say to some of our, I don't love this term, but they self-identify more OCD type mamas who do want everything to be perfect and always in the right places, and they're not okay. They don't feel okay if at the end of that collaborative cleanup it's not all just right.
I think we have to look at it from the child's point of view and mum's point of view, because mum needs to feel happy. Mum needs to feel calm, because that's going to help the kids feel happy and calm. But if we try to impose our standards or our way of doing things on them, it can cause a ruction in the relationship. It can cause tension. And I always use the example of an adult pair that perhaps live together and the dishwasher. So if we take my husband and I, for example, I just want everything off the kitchen surfaces and I will put it into the dishwasher. And if it doesn't all fit in my opinion, I will set it running. And if that means that some things stay on the kitchen counter for the evening, then so be it. I'm not going to waste my time washing up. I'll wait till it finishes and then I'll empty it and put them in. My husband, on the other hand, it's like a Jenga game. It's all got to be fitted in, and it's all like Tetris, not Jenga, Tetris, all fitted in, and he wants to get as much in there as possible. And if there's anything left on the side, he's going to wash it up because he can't be coping with that. So we have two very different ways of doing them. But what causes problems then is that if I've put stuff into the dishwasher and he comes over and he starts correcting it, that makes me feel, oh, well, do it yourself then. It's obviously not good enough. And when we say that to our children, when they've made the effort to tidy up, and let's face it, if they're age 2, 3, they're not going to get it perfect. We have to cut them a bit of slack and say, okay, they've done the best job they can. It's put away. And if that for mum isn't quite good enough, then wait for kids to be out of the way and just go and resort it without undermining what they've done in front of them. And then mum's relaxed, kids are relaxed, and everyone's happy. And that's the way I always try and play it with people.
Okay. Something I've been thinking a lot about lately is extrinsic motivation versus intrinsic motivation. And specifically here in the United States, there is a huge gap. 80% of Americans identify as being extrinsically motivated. They need somebody else to tell them what to do, why to do it, and what they're going to get after they do it. And so I really feel strongly that we need to raise kids who motivate from the inside, who have a deep desire to take action and do something because they want to feel that success and achievement when it's done. What strategies do you have besides the repetition, because habitual behavior is going to set us up for that, for motivating kids to help tidy so that they're feeling that way, not I'm doing it because my mom or dad said I have to?
I think with all kids, what they want is to feel self-worth. And when we give them a job to do without any expectation, so say, for example, you've got a little one and you give them a plastic plate and you say, can you take that through and put it on the dining room table? It doesn't matter if it gets put in the wrong place. It doesn't matter if it gets dropped on the way. But then to say to them, wow, you did such a great job with that. Your concentration carrying that over was amazing. Rather than, thank you for helping me. It's made me feel better, you having done that. so that they learn that they're doing it for their self-worth, not because it's important for you, but because, as I said earlier, we're a family, we pull together. We're trying to create a home where we're all helping each other out. And it's not just down to mum to do the tidying up, the cleaning, all the rest of it. And when you do that, they do learn it. And my eldest is now 16. But yesterday evening, she surprised me. We had a friend of ours had an emergency and I had to drive a child to the hospital. And I left the house, the dishwasher was running, the kitchen bomb had hit it. I mean, it just looked appalling. And I came home a few hours later and it was totally cleared. And from her own volition, she'd emptied the dishwasher when it finished, she'd packed it, she'd washed up, because she sees it as part of her job to help look after the home and help keep it looking nice. And she was also probably thinking, well, mum's going to come back and she's going to be tired because that wasn't expected. But that's something that's developed within her over the years, that she does that without me asking. And I'm really proud to say that all of my kids, even my son with autism, will do things without me asking. I was sitting working yesterday and my son comes in and says, I made you a cup of tea, Mummy. And you're just like, wow, fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope you've done something nice for yourself as well. So it's something that when you regularly instill in them that their self-worth is important doing it, it's not because it makes you happy, then they grow with that and become incredibly independent and also very self-confident that they can do these things. And you're not going to criticize them if they knock the tea over and it gets spilt everywhere. You know, these things happen. I've always tried not to fly off the handle when they're trying to learn a new skill to do with tidying up or organizing or cleaning, and it goes horribly wrong. Then fine, look, we've learned something from that. So next time you know that could happen. So what would you do differently next time, rather than me going, oh, why weren't you more careful? I've always tried really hard not to be that mum. So I think that's basically when it becomes intrinsic and not extrinsic.
Absolutely. Ugh. And this idea of that this is a self-development journey that you're both on. You're at one level at the mom age, and they're at a different level at their toddler and then growing up age, but we're both on that journey. So what about when you've realized it's just too much? There's too many toys, too many books, too many everythings. In my particular situation, we would have Christmas, and then a month later, one girl had a birthday, and then 10 days later, the next girl had her birthday. And it was boom, 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 gift-giving palooza. And I had a bunch of strategies over the years, but one of them was to proactively work with the girls to make their choices, to give away before those gift-giving opportunities arrived so that there was space for the new stuff. But it was hard. It was hard depending on how old they were and how attached they were. When you work with families, because I hear you using a lot of intentional language, and I love that. That's what I do. What type of intentional language do you give parents to use with their kids when the kids have to make these hard choices of what to give away?
I will very often ask to work with the child without the parents in the room, because mum has a habit, and it usually is mum has a habit. Child will pick up said soft toy, for example, and then their first reaction when they're age 2 or 3 is always, if you say to them, do you want to keep it? Yes. Every time, without fail, they'll say yes. And then if you say to them, okay, if you had all of your toys here and you had to grab one of them to run out of the house with, which one would you go for? Or which one would you choose to take to bed? Something where they have some connection to it. And then they pick up that one. And then you can talk to them about, okay, what is it you like about this one? How does it make you feel? Is it all that stuff that we talked about before? And then you can ask them, well, which one would you perhaps not choose? Which one doesn't make you as happy as that one? And they'll pick up a soft toy and mum will go, oh, you can't give that away. Auntie so-and-so gave you that. So the children do know, if you talk through with them the things that they like and don't like. And in the KonMari method, we say we want to keep things that spark joy with us. That's hard for an adult to get their head around. I would never use that language to the child. What makes you happy? What toys are fun? And it's difficult when they're age 2 and 3, saying to them, another girl or boy could love having this if you were to donate it. They're not there yet. They're not ready for that. But what I very often will suggest is we have a box where and I always make it a beautiful box. It's not like just a boring bin, something lovely where, okay, that's not one of your ones that makes you really happy at the moment. Let's put it in a new home just for a minute while we find a nice place for all the ones that you really love. And then you can just gently remove that box at the end of the session. And if parents are having a problem with letting those particular items go, you can say, okay, put it in the basement or hide it under your bed for a few months. And if they don't miss it, then that's your sign that you can let it go. And I think with very little ones, it's always worth giving it a bit of time because they can suddenly remember. And there's nothing worse for a littly, there's that word again, when things that they suddenly realize they are attached to are no longer there. I mean, that's just a disaster waiting for to happen for any parent. So give it a bit of time and then you can gently let them go and give them to donation. Or if it's something of high value, you can try and sell it. But that's basically how I work. And then I will tell the parents afterwards, okay, this is how we've talked about it. Or I'll invite the parents in towards the end. Do you want to show mum and dad what you have decided are your favorite things and not make a big fuss about the things that we're letting go? What is it you really like about this? Can you tell mummy so that she knows why you think this is really special? And then they're learning as well how they can talk to the child about
and deepening that connection. When a child is being that vulnerable, whether they realize it or not, and sharing from inside, boy, does that really, and it surprises us sometimes, the things they say and the reason things matter to them. Just so good. So you have a bunch of ways that you support parents to support their kids through the transitions that have to happen in order to find those calm, safe spaces. And so I know you have a free resource, you have a guide. Tell everyone what that is and how they can get it and what it will do for them.
Yeah, certainly. It's a resource that I've put together. It's free. And it's called 5 Sneaky Hacks to Get Your Kids Tidying Up Without Them Even Realizing It. And it starts from very tiny, so age 1, when they're just starting to walk, how we can integrate tidying for that age group, all the way through the age ranges. So it doesn't matter what age your child is, there's something in this guide for you. And it's lots of fun ways that also give you an opportunity to connect. And if I go back to our tidy up time when my kids were little, that's what they remember. When we talk about when they were little, oh, do you remember the fun dancing we used to do every day? They don't think of it as tidying, but it was a connection point with me every day, and it became a bit of a ritual. And that's what I would really love to empower all parents to have is this way of connecting with your child. My brother is now tidying consultant. So and that's his title. And his stepdaughter and him go up to her bedroom each evening, and she calls him his tidying consultant, and he gives her a bit of direction and off she goes. And then she'll ask, okay, and he has this connection time with his stepdaughter every day. And it's so, so beautiful. And it's a really fun time that they have together. It used to be really, really stressy. And I think so many times with parents, and this is what I wanted to bring across in this guide that I've produced, it doesn't have to be something that causes friction and stress. I think most parents go, oh, I've got to get them to tidy up. It can be a wonderful way to connect every day with your child. And that's what I hope to bring across in this.
Oh, so good. So listen up. No matter how old your kids are, go grab this resource, and you're going to get a 1-2 punch, actually, right? Because you're going to get this beautiful freebie and it's going to show up in your inbox and you can start using it right away. And Caroline will also then give you some information about a little workshop she's doing that will allow you to take this deeper. So please know that your kids' self-awareness is where this starts, and you want to start with the younger they start, the more success you're going to have over all the years together. Oh, Caroline, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your expertise. We really, really value you.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely to chat.
All right. Until our next episode, stay mindful out there, mamas and daddies, as we transform the toddler years.